Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Video. So the Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS English Dub's final episode just got released not too long ago, and if you're unfamiliar with what happened, there were some massive changes in terms of dialogue that really upset a lot of people in the community. And so in this video, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of go over what those changes were, the major changes, the two big pieces of dialogue that really changed the entire tone of that scene, give my own opinion on it, and just kind of have a discussion on it down below in the comments. I do want to say there will be major spoilers in regards to the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, and so if you are trying to remain spoiler-free even 2 years after the show came to an end, this probably is the time to click off this video. You have been warned. So the finale of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS ends with I dying in Playmaker's hands as the two basically confess that they've always had feelings for each other, and those feelings are, of course, love. Now, whether you view the scene in a romantic way or a platonic way is completely up to you. Personally, I viewed the whole I love you at the end as more of a best friend saying it to a best friend or saying it to a family member. I didn't really view it romantically, but if you view it romantically, that is totally fine. At the end of the day, these shows, pieces of media, I believe are all up for open interpretation, so I think that is completely fair no matter how you interpreted the scene. But either way, it was a very emotional, very impactful scene with I and Playmaker going back and forth in the dialogue before the duel ends, and even after the duel ends, talking about how much they appreciated each other and how much this journey meant to them. So the English dub changed these lines pretty drastically. The first being when I asks Playmaker if he was a good partner. Now, in the original version, Playmaker says something along the lines of, yes, you were the best partner I could ever ask for, which was a very meaningful line, especially coming from Playmaker, even after I betrayed him and was going up against humanity in that final arc. Playmaker throughout the entire show was pretty closed off emotionally, mainly from the trauma that was the Lost incident, and so it was very rare to see moments with him where he would actually confess his appreciation towards anyone, especially towards I, who was very annoying towards him really the entirety of the show. I mean, I really was a troll at many points in VRAINS, but seeing that line was very important because it showed just how much Playmaker has grown and how much the relationship between Playmaker and I have grown, and I really appreciated hearing that from Playmaker, and it always kind of makes me sad looking back on it because that is one of the last things that Playmaker says to I before the duel comes to an end. But here's how the English dub handled that exchange.
Do you think I was a good teammate for you? Be honest. No. You were the worst strategist I have ever met. Oh well, I guess I asked for it.
So Playmaker in the dub completely burns I, which I'm not really the biggest fan of because, again, I felt like that was such a great moment of Playmaker showing that development and showing his appreciation for I in really one of the last moments that the two characters would have with each other. And so to see Playmaker burn I in that way, where he basically says, no, you were a terrible partner, isn't really at all what the original representation portrays. And then the second moment is when Playmaker is holding I in his arms and this exchange happens.
Thank you, Playmaker. You were a good friend. For a meatbag, I mean. It's time for me to say bye, Yusaku.
I literally calls Playmaker a meatbag, which just means, you know, dunderhead, blunderhead, you know, idiot, whatever you want to say that word means. A meatbag in one of the most impactful emotional moments in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. And they remove, of course, any sort of I love you or anything along those lines, which again drastically changes the context of the scene and once again throws in a comedic line that the dub is famous for. So I'm surprised by two things that came from this English dub. The first being how drastically they decided to change the dialogue and the tone. Now, the Yu-Gi-Oh! English dubs have always gone for a more comedic approach, but because this is your final episode, and there's no real way around this, I mean, I is dying, I was surprised that they still dug into the old comedy roots, and it seems like they really tried to make this as less impactful of a scene as they possibly could by adding a lot of comedy and adding personal jabs and insults, which is what the English dub is kind of known for. So I'm surprised they went in that direction and changed it so tonally. The other thing that I'm actually very surprised about is the response of the community. I gotta tell you, a lot of people were very, very outraged by this. I saw on Twitter, I saw on comments, there were a lot of people that were very, very upset. And I was just a little surprised by that, only because this is what the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs have been for the last 20 years. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs have never been a one-to-one adaptation. And what I mean by that is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dub has never matched line for line consistently throughout every single show, throughout every single episode, what the original Japanese version was trying to represent. The English dub has just never done that. I believe there are people who worked back in the day when it was known as 4K Media for the studios that said their goal is to basically create an entirely different project, an entirely different anime, and that makes sense. I've always viewed the Yu-Gi-Oh! English dub as basically an entirely different version from the original material. Now, I understand why a lot of people don't like that. I think it's very fair to maybe not really love that because you kind of want to see a faithful dub adaptation, but at the same time, the Yu-Gi-Oh! English dubs have always been targeted for a much younger demographic than the shows overseas in Japan are targeted for. And so, as a 27-year-old dude who's still talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! On the internet, I feel like it would be a little unfair for me to get too mad at this, because this version of Yu-Gi-Oh!, in this case Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, is not really meant for me. Now, that's not to say someone my age can't enjoy the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs. That's not at all what I'm saying. But from a marketing perspective, Konami doesn't really care how well this is landing with people in my age demographic because it's made for a much younger audience. So I am surprised by how many people were upset and outraged by this, because this is something that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs have done for really their entire existence. I mean, just a little example, Marek in the English dub was trying to collect the Egyptian god cards and the Millennium items, whereas in the original, he was just trying to kill the Pharaoh. That was his only goal and his only motivator. So they've completely changed character motivations, backstories, plot lines throughout the entire history of the Yu-Gi-Oh! English dub, and this is just another example of them doing it. Would I prefer a more faithful adaptation of this particular scene? Yes, because this was one of my favorite scenes in Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, and it is an impactful and heavy moment where one of your main characters is dying in the finale episode. So I am still surprised that they took it in such a comedic and playful route, given the weight that this scene had in the original version, but this is what the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs have always done, and I think there is a little bit of animosity from VRAINS fans towards this decision, because this is the last piece of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS that VRAINS fans are ever going to get, and we as Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans are ever going to get. The show ended in Japan about 2 years ago. The manga never happened. It's the only spin-off that never had a manga adaptation, and I know for almost a definitive fact we are never getting a VRAINS manga, and this is the last moment that people are going to be left with when it comes to the Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS franchise, and so I understand why there might even be a little more anger than usual towards the decision of taking it in a more comedic route, because this is kind of the last taste of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. But guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this. This is something that has really swept away the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime community in the last week or so, and I'm really interested to hear your thoughts down below. Maybe some of you like this change or really don't mind it. Let me know any thoughts you have on the dub change. I mean, for me, maybe it's because I'm numb to it, because again, I'm just used to it, and I view the dub as a different product. I didn't really view it as a crazy big deal. I was surprised, but I definitely wasn't, angry or anything like that. But let me know all your thoughts down below. And a special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Panther J, Blue Maiden 28, and Jarrett Buller, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, Fasty, and Erick Avila, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons, MegaWill and Ccapacappuuu. Thank you so much to everyone who supports me on Patreon. I cannot tell you how much it means to me, and I highly recommend you check out my Patreon. It is a link down below. There are a lot of really, really cool perks that you can get if you sign up to be a Patreon and if you want to go that extra mile to support this YouTube channel. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. I stream on Twitch, I'm on Twitter, and I am on Instagram. Links for all those will be down below. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.